Hello, and welcome to the 2021 Associated Student Government Debates, hosted by CMU-TV. I am Justin Platt, your moderator for the evening. Tonight, we have debates between the trustees, candidates, as well as the president and vice president candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question and 1 minute for a rebuttal. We now begin the presidential and vice presidential debates between candidates Cordova and Bravo and Shearrow and Edwards. We will begin with Cordova and Bravo. What have you done in the previous year of student leadership in your orgs that supports the claims you are making on your social media profiles? You have 2 minutes to split between the two of you.
All right, I can go and begin this one. So something that we have heavily ran our campaign on has been underrepresented students. So what we have actively been doing in our community as well as our institution, we have been around current administration that's going through the school right now and been involved in local, regional, and state conversations that are happening. For example, right now, myself alongside Mario Bravo and some of our current administration are working very closely with Stuart Jenkins. He actually works with Healthier for Colorado, and we have just now created a partnership between CMU and Healthier Colorado, and we are actually putting out an article. We're waiting for it. Hopefully it gets chosen. We're waiting for it currently to go ahead and get published onto the Daily Sentinel. And it just kind of explains some of our testimonials that we have going on right now, as in we are representing first generation low income minority students and trying to do that as authentically as possible. Another thing that we're running on is transparency. The transparency that we are trying to provide for our students. It was mentioned before that student body right now, there's a little bit of a miscommunication because a lot of them do not understand the actual power that they hold within their student government. And this is really huge because they truly do hold a power. They hold an amazing, really strong power that we are able to advocate and really represent through that, whether that be the trustee positions or in our case, the vice president and presidential candidates.
Okay, thank you. Candidates Shearrow and Edwards, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
So the claims that we're making on our social media is we're focused on 3 main pillars: building together, representing you, and empowering your future. And what that looks like for us is we want to be able to make sure that you have a job after college. We know that you have things that you want to do inside and outside of the classroom. And a couple of the events that we've hosted have been things like the Super Smash Brothers tournament. We've been proud to sponsor bills and resolutions relating to giving money to the HPA Alliance in order for them to put on their luau, with $800 for luau tables and then $200 for masks, which helped their families back home during the coronavirus pandemic. So when it comes to the things that we've been doing in terms of our social media claims, we're focused on 3 things: building together, empowering futures, and representing you as students.
Okay, and now your answer to the same question. What have you done in this previous year of student leadership in your orgs that supports the claims you are making on your social media profiles?
Well, what we have done, ASG and I have been on student government for a while. We've been a part of different communities, and we've really pushed and advocated for our constituents in regards to financial literacy, mental health, and we've supported bills and resolutions that have gone to multiple organizations, multiple clubs, to really facilitate that community within their clubs and organizations, to facilitate that relationship. And I think that is one of the things that we are building our foundation on. I mean, building together, representing you and empowering futures, that encompasses supporting all different things outside of the classroom. So mental health, social, economical, and that's why we are really pushing for financial literacy. We're pushing for those causes that are social, that are outside the classroom.
And it's not constrained to 1 year. Selena and I have 5 years of experience on Associated Student Government. Selena herself has been on 2 biennial budget processes, which totaled $2.6 million allocated to student clubs and organizations. We know what we're doing, and that's why we're running to represent you, build together, and empower your future.
Okay. Cordova and Bravo, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
Yeah, so definitely props to you guys. You guys have truly done a lot, and in this past year, I have definitely seen all the work that they have been doing. However, one of the biggest things that we're going to bring into this is the community connections. As student trustee, as an elected student trustee, I have been able to build these relationships with people who have true potential and power through the institution. This is all the trustees. For example, Ron Davis, I have connected with him on another kind of relationship. We have built a different kind of relationship that I honestly believe that if I were to reach out to him and ask for any kind of questions, any kind of resources, any kind of through the business department or anything along those lines, he would be more than willing to go ahead and offer his resources for us. And I know Mario as well has quite a few connections.
Yeah, so I've worked pretty closely with Riverside Educational Center and also created my own and founded my own club, Society of Professional Engineers, which helps Hispanics or minorities, underrepresented groups, to get that extra resource with minority groups and Fortune 500 companies. So I've been able to help around the campus and with underrepresented groups as well.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. We will begin our next question with Shearrow and Edwards. What sets you apart from not only your opponents, but previous administrations? And how do you plan to use that as a take on your new roles? You have 2 minutes.
Well, what sets us apart is that we are really committed to continuing to do what we've been doing for the past 5 years, and that we look at the whole person. We're not just looking at, just supporting clubs to go on trips or go to different conventions. We're looking at what we can do on a more tangible level for students as individuals. Like, they are struggling with mental health. What can we do more specifically to support that cost? They are struggling with relationships. They are struggling financially. What can we do to implement and to push initiatives that support those causes? Because every day when you come into your classroom, you sit down, each student experiences something or is dealing with something that people don't see. And those are the issues that we really want to tackle.
And I'm glad you asked this question, Justin, because what makes me different and what makes our ticket different is I'm one of the 9.4% of people in the city of Grand Junction who live every day with a disability. That's why I'm wearing my mask right now, even when everybody else isn't. Additionally, I have 2 of these name tags. I was on Associated Student Government in 2017, and Selena was on it for 3 years after I ended my tenure in 2017. So the thing that makes us different is that we have the community connections, which aren't unique, but also that we're more experienced, we're more invested in you as students, and we're here to build, represent, and empower.
Okay. Cordova and Bravo, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Alrighty, so as first generation students and as Mexican American students, which we both identify as, I feel like we bring a completely new aspect to the table when it involves the administration that's coming in to ASG. So a few things with that. We have gone through our own struggles and battles with self-identity and imposter syndrome, which if you guys don't know what that is, I really encourage everybody to go ahead and look at that and really dive deep into that, because it's the occurrence of doubting your abilities even though you're a high-performing student. So something that really, truly we bring to the table is our passion, because we've been through it. We represent you at higher conversations, at higher levels through state, regional, and local conversations. For example, we have been talking to Sustainability Council as well, and now we are in connection with them. We are wanting to get another student representative on their board. So hopefully that goes through, as well as connecting them to REC, which is Riverside Educational Center. So we can talk about that a little bit here in a bit.
Thank you. And now your answer to the same question. What sets you apart from not only your opponents, but previous administrations? And how do you plan to use that as you take on your new roles? You have 2 minutes.
I think what sets both of us apart from previous administrations is just the fact that I am a DACA recipient. And if you guys don't know what DACA is, it's just children that immigrate over to the U.S. at a very young age. And I have the ability to work, but I don't have the ability to receive financial aid from federal help or not. And something that I have noticed is just the fact that many of us, like DACA recipients or the underrepresented group, don't have the resources like financial help from the government or from anywhere else to really get that extra help and push to go to university or attend any other higher institution. So what I can do is advocate for myself and also for many underrepresented groups, as I am literally in those shoes, and I have gone through the struggles that other people have struggled, like the Island Pacificers that don't have the funding that they do. And I can advocate for those people because I know what it feels like to not have that funding, to not have that resource to get that education, and I can hope to represent those people at a higher level. So.
And building off of that a little bit more, the Pacific Islanders are not included in the funding formula through the JBC, so Joint Budget Committee, that's what it is. And they kind of allocate money around. They are in charge of our budget. So a big thing that we did, actually, we went down to the Joint Budget Committee, and we actually presented in front of them and got more first generation funding for our institutions. So that was a pretty big privilege and honor to be able to accomplish.
Okay. Shearrow and Edwards, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that Trustee Cordova and Mr. Bravo brought up in their response. First of all, being House Bill 1366, which was augmenting the way that higher education institutions are funded in the state of Colorado. So, like they said, one of the things that was left out of it is non-resident funding for minority students. They highlighted that they were in fact able to get something done in terms of funding for first generation students, but one of the things that Selena and I want to do is to be able to reopen that conversation with the Joint Budget Commission during our new and unique administration. Additionally, they brought up a couple of things with the Sustainability Council and DACA. I sponsored and wrote a resolution on DACA urging then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to reverse his position, and I'm completely glad that I did it because Mario standing in front of you today is proof that it worked. And then secondly, with Sustainability Council, we both co-sponsored and wrote a resolution urging Sodexo and CMU dining services to stop their use of styrofoam, and we did it, and the day after we did it, CMU dining services banned styrofoam by 2021. That's just our track record and why we think we're unique.
All right, thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Cordova and Bravo. What sets you apart from not only your opponents, but the previous administrations? And how do you plan to continue to use your role to create change here at Grand Junction and Colorado Mesa?
Yeah, so I think the position that I'm in as student trustee is a very unique one. It ensures a smooth transition between the trustee and president and vice president. What I plan to do with my trustee position is use, like I had already mentioned, use those connections that I have already built through the trustees and through state representatives as well. And as well legislative positions alongside Mario, who has a lot of community connections being local, a local student here, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add to that, as I mentioned earlier, I started Society's Professional Engineers, and I have greatly been impacted by that program to be able to, get an internship at a Fortune 500 company, and that's something that here in rural areas we don't get that chance to. So I brought that in here to kind of help our community, our Grand Junction, and our actual student community, and impact them in a way to help them get those resources that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Okay, Shearrow and Edwards, your 1 minute rebuttal.
So what really sets us apart, at least for me and for us, is that our experience. For my background, I've been a part of ASG, I've been working for club sports, and I've worked with 25 different sports. I'm a part of BSA. I've been really active on this campus, and I think for me, I started as a non-traditional student. So I came here after serving in the military and active duty, and then so I went through that undergrad experience, and now I'm experiencing that graduate experience. So I think that encompasses a lot of experience and a lot of background foundation to really be kind of different and to see different perspectives and bring that into our foundation and our mission. And that's why we're really focusing on empowering futures, because when you leave here, you're no longer a student, and we really want to build that foundation. So while you're here, you have all these different experiences, all these different perspectives that can add to that education and add for your trajectory in your life and in your career.
Thank you. And now your answer to the same question. What sets you apart, not only from your opponents, but previous administrations? And how do you plan to use that to take on your new roles and create change here in the community in Grand Junction and also Colorado Mesa?
Yeah, so that's another great question. When it comes to the community aspect, community connections aren't unique to any one ticket. And I think that's quite apparent today, and that both of our tickets have great community connections. Selena and I have worked quite a while alongside CMU Club Sports and Athletics, and then I myself am a third generation Maverick. The only place that I could ride my bike was all the way up to this, in fact, Escalante Hall. I remember when this was built. And what makes us unique in terms of being able to forge those connections is that we know how ASG works. We know how the university works because we've been here the longest. And one of the things that's going to change in the upcoming year is that clubs and organizations aren't going to be able to go to something called Club Advisory Board where they can more easily get money. And Selena and I are very familiar with the club budgeting process, and we want the clubs and student leaders and their students that they serve to know that we're on their side. We're here to help them go to ASG and ask for money because we get clubs money every single week. And we sponsor resolutions that actually get things done on campus and within the community, just like I co-signed a resolution on DACA in 2017, and we sponsored and wrote a resolution on Sustainability Council just last week, and CMU Dining Services responded. And I think you see that in our campaign as well. We're very invested with students. We got over 130 comments in 24 hours on our Instagram post asking you what you want to see, and you want to see more events. That's what we're experienced with, and that's what we're here to do, and that's what we want to do in our new positions as student body president and vice president of Colorado Mesa University.
Cordova and Bravo, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so although it is great that they've advocated for different groups, it's also a big deal when someone from those groups is actually representing them at a higher level. And for me, as a DACA recipient, I never had that chance, or I never saw someone to represent me at the level that I wanted to. And so what I'm trying to do that's different from other presidential campaigns is the fact that you don't really know if someone is a DACA recipient or someone is going through is a different person than the average person, right? So what I want to be someone that you can come to and be vulnerable, be like, hey, I've kind of been in your shoes and I really would like some guidance. So we want to become a person, a group of people that you can just come to and be vulnerable to, and just make sure that you feel welcomed in a university. So,
thank you. Now we'll move on to the next question, specifically for the vice president candidates. Candidate Edwards, what is your job as the vice president, and how do your experiences shape how you're going to take on that responsibility in representing students? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, the vice president supports the president. There's basically a second in command, and is basically the person that runs all the General Assembly meetings, serves in place of the president if needs be. And I think it's critical to point out that the vice president also serves as the breaking vote if there's a tie within the Senate. We're also responsible to having 15 office hours. And I think, for me, I've been in ASG for 3 years. I've seen that role. I've been a part of it. And stepping into that role, if I get elected, is really important to me, because I really want to push what the new Senate will do. I really want to encourage us to really address issues that may have been overlooked or haven't been addressed in the years before. Because I think we as a Senate, sometimes forget that we have that power to really speak and advocate for students. And that's what I want to encourage the next student government to do.
Candidate Bravo, your 1 minute rebuttal.
yeah, so adding to the points that she was talking about, we can also, as a vice president, you are also, meant to create like a synergy environment, right? So what I mean by that is create an environment which you are cohesively working together with the Senate and also yourself. So make sure that you are a person that you can come to. You're a person that people from the Senate can come to, and create an environment that we can all work together. So along with that, we can also become a place where we all communicate with each other effectively and can get many things done in a short amount of time.
Thank you. And now, Candidate Bravo, your 2-minute response to the same question. What is your job as the Vice President, and how do your experiences shape how you're going to take on that responsibility in representing students?
Yeah, so great question, really. So as a president, you deal with the external affairs, and as a vice president, you deal with the internal affairs. So that is talking with student government, so talking with Senate, the House of Representatives, and just the inner circle of student government. So as a vice president, you are also the second in command to the president. So any other second opinion that you could hand to the president will be helpful, because after a heat of the moment, or even after going through some meetings, you always need like a second opinion or a different type of environment or opinion to look onto. And as a vice president, I can bring a different point of view, because I am a computer scientist. So I think logically, I think differently than usually the people that would be inside those government offices. So.
Candidate Edwards, your rebuttal, you have 1 minute.
I think it's also important to note that some people tend to think that the vice president and the president are supposed to be always in agreement, but that's not really the issue. The situation with Jay and I, we do go back and forth, and I think that dynamic and that debate between us really puts us in a position to advocate for students. As VP, you want to be that person who can play devil's advocate, is the alternate reasoning when you're representing students and you're talking about key issues, because you don't want there to be a bias and you don't want one issue to outweigh another issue. And I think as VP, that's important.
For our final questions, we'll ask the presidential candidates directly. Candidate Cordova, what is the job as the president, and how do your experiences shape how you are going to take on that responsibility and representing students? How does the introduction of a new president on campus impact that? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so what the president does, so we are the external face of Associated Student Government. So basically what that means is we are working directly with student body. The introduction of a new president means a smooth transition, and that's going to be one of our biggest responsibilities. Through Associated Student Government as well, one of the key aspects that we are going to have to be focusing on as this transition is taking place is making sure that we are using the power that we have cohesively with our new president. So that's kind of what, that's kind of what the president does.
Thank you. Candidate Shearrow, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so I think that the ASG Constitution actually said it best when the job of the president is to give precedence to the interests of the student no matter what and above all else. And basically what that means is that the job of the ASG president is to represent you personally over everything else, over their commitment to their club and over their commitment to themselves. So that means even if I disagree with the choice you're making, or if I disagree with something Selena's saying, but it's in the student's interest, it is my job to represent you. And the things that we're seeing on Instagram and social media are things like you want to get back on campus. You want to have those relationships. You want to go beyond your education, find jobs, interact with the community. And that's the job of the president, in my view.
And now, your response to the same question. What is your job as the president? And how do your experiences shape how you are going to take on that responsibility in representing students? How does the introduction of a new president on campus impact that? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So my job as the president is to represent students, as we already discussed. And I'm glad Mario brought this up previously, where the key word in that is represent. He stated that he feels it's important for him to be able to represent DACA students and students who go through struggles similar to him. And I completely agree. In my instance, it's my responsibility to be somebody to represent disabled students. Because as you can tell, I'm kind of leaning on this podium right now because my left leg hurts. That's part of my disability. And being a disabled student, don't get a lot of people to look up to. And that's my job. The job of the president and the senator is to represent students on a day-to-day basis. And a couple of things that I'm really passionate about on campus is, first of all, addressing parking. When I went through a hip replacement last spring, one of the things that I found is that I couldn't really crutch to class very quickly, and I had to take an extra 20 minutes to get from point A to point B just because there wasn't enough parking on campus. So I know what it feels like to be late just because you can't find a parking spot. And one of the other things that we're really passionate about is a Maverick meal program. We want to be able to take meals and unused swipes that students haven't used and allocate those towards students who are going hungry on campus. And finally, we just want to be able to do the simple things. You know, we want to be able to partner with clubs and organizations and make sure that they get the funding that they deserve to go to networking events and conferences that are vital to their careers, and also to have events like Pinion Palooza that we saw last weekend. And Selena and I have done 2 events on our own with the partnership of ASG, Video Game Club, and CMU Esports, where in the fall we had 50 people come out and play Super Smash Brothers, and in the spring, just last weekend, we had 25 people to 28 people come out, and they stayed the whole time, and they had a great time. So that's just a couple of the things we've been doing and will continue to do. So that's just, in my view, the role and responsibility of the president is to represent students and represent you above all else.
Candidate Cordova, your final rebuttal. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, so a few things that we're actively doing here as well. Travel assistance. So one of their biggest things and one of our primary concerns is going ahead and introducing this fund. We want to go ahead and start taking steps, start breaking ground on helping students. After such a hard year, we understand as college students, there is a financial need that needs to be met right now. Students are working full-time, students are working part-time, students are going to school full-time or part-time, and they're barely having time to really put money aside, or they're barely having the funds to even put money aside. So one of the most important things that we want to start focusing on moving forward, and that we have actually already started making steps towards, is getting this travel assistance, and we want to call it Travel Assistance Fund. It's going to be TAF. So what we want to do is go ahead and through an application process, go ahead and call on those students that are wanting to go home during the holidays and that's really affecting them, and go ahead and allow them and give them that opportunity working together so that they can go back home. We have a lot of out-of-state, we have a lot of Pacific Islanders that are also here, and international students as well, and we want to make sure that those are also a population that we want to target.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for tuning in to tonight's Associated Student Government Debates, hosted by CMU-TV. Voting opens Monday, April 19th, and closes Wednesday, April 21st. I have been your moderator, Justin Platt, and your vote may determine the future of CMU. Good night.